Well, it's been a long time since I've done a walk and talk, so let's do one today. I want to tell you a little story that a little illustration that my wife came up with. She's very adventurous, and she has gone mountain climbing several times, and rappelling as well, and that's what I want to talk about today. Rappelling, if you're not familiar, you basically tie a rope to yourself and then jump off a cliff. She says it's more complicated than that. I've never done it, and I have no intention to try it because that by itself sounds terrifying. Not just a huge fan of heights, and I have just really poor upper body strength, so no, not my favorite activity to do. But she described to me an interesting phenomenon that happens with a lot of people when they go rappelling. You see, when you rappel, you actually tie a rope not to yourself, but to a harness that fits around your pelvis. This harness is tight enough to hold all of your weight right just around your pelvis. And so when you have the rope attached and you sit down, if you will, in this harness, it holds your weight because your pelvis can hold all of your weight. The problem is that it's not a chair. It's not a solid object. It's a series of straps that go around your pelvis. And so to sit down and put your weight in that feels terrifying. And so people don't do it, at least the first time. It's very, what do I want to say? It's very unnatural thing to do. It's very counterintuitive to what you think you should do if you're going to jump off a cliff. And having said that whole sentence just sounds wrong. Anyway, so what people will do is that instead of letting the weight rest on the harness, they will try to hold their weight with their hands. And this doesn't work because your body isn't supposed to be held by your hands. The weight's supposed to go into your hips and to your legs. But the other problem is because they're not sitting back, they can't put their legs forward up against the wall, which is where they belong. So if you're rappelling down a cliff, your feet go into the wall and you go down. Well, without your feet into the wall, there's nothing to prevent you from swinging into the rock. And that's what happens. People will start to process and they'll start going down, but they don't put their feet out. They don't sit back in the harness, and so they end up face planting in the wall every time. Now, that story is scary enough to make me think I never want to go rappelling, and it's not really even a discussion now. Even my wife doesn't go rappelling anymore because I don't want to say we're getting too old for it, but that's what it feels like for sure. But it's a great illustration of trusting God with different parts of our life. Because sometimes God feels as ethereal as just straps around your pelvis. You know, that we can't talk to him face to face like we can people. We can't touch him. We can't see him. And so when he tells us to put our trust in him, to let him hold us up, support us, because that word faith isn't just to believe. It literally means to rely on, to trust in, and to lean on. So when we're trying to lean in on Jesus, that becomes a real issue because we won't put our weight on him, because it doesn't feel safe. And so rather than trusting and leaning on Jesus and letting him carry us, we try to carry ourselves with our upper body strength and end up face planting into the wall. So if you're struggling with something right now, got an issue in your life that you're having trouble trusting Jesus with, and you find yourself face planting into the wall, know this: sit back in the harness. Trust God for what he's called you to do. Trust him to accomplish his promises in your life and his will for your life. It feels like you're sitting on nothing, but it's better than face planting into the wall.